It's my pleasure to introduce to you the president of the Wolfeboro Area Chamber of Commerce, Sheila Chittum. Sheila is the general manager of the Windrifter Resort. Hey, Sheila.
Good morning, everybody. As Mary said, my name is Sheila Chittum. I'm the resort manager for the Windrifter up the street here. And it's certainly my pleasure to be here and see all of you here this morning. This is a really important thing that we have started for the town because it really describes, we have a valuable relationship between the Chamber of Commerce and the town of Wolfeboro officials, and we are glad to be able to do this so that everybody can go in with a knowledge of what is happening around the town and what they're asking to help us out for the future. So we're looking forward to continuing the relationship with everybody as the years go on. With that, what I would like to do at this time is to introduce Jim Pinio, who is our town manager. Jim is a vital part of the officials here in the town of Wolfeboro. He's the overseer of all the departments within the town. And has a big job on his hands, but he's here to spend some time with us and give us his insight and tell us what the town is up to. Jim?
Good morning and thank you. As I was introduced, my name is Jim Pinio. I'm the town manager. To give you a little bit of background of where I came from and how I ended up here. I started out growing up in a small town in northern New Hampshire. Basically, I had a lot of fun growing up in that small town. When I was growing up, my family spent a significant amount of time down here on Mirror Lake. We had a family camp on the lake, and we had relatives as well who lived in the community. Made for some wonderful summers here in the community. And then I'd go back to school, and that wasn't necessarily so fun. Probably one of the main reasons I got through school was baseball, skiing, and soccer. Those were pretty much the staples. Education at that point wasn't terribly important to me. As I graduated from high school, I really had no idea what I wanted to do with my life. So I joined the local fire department, which my father was a member of, and I thought, hey, this is a pretty neat thing. So I ended up focusing a little bit, and at the age of 23, I decided to go to college. I went to college to learn the sciences of fire science in Laconia. And at that time, it was really an interesting career. There would be hiring events which would take place in communities, and they would have 3 or 4 positions available, and there'd be 600 to 700 applicants for those positions. Interestingly, as times have changed, it's kind of going the other way. There's more positions available than there are staff to fill that, which is a different story for another time. So I ended up landing a job in the town of Littleton, New Hampshire. I spent about 20 years in the town of Littleton as a firefighter. Left there as the acting captain, which is the number 2 position within that department. And I came here to Wolfeboro to be the fire chief. When I applied for that position of fire chief, there was actually 64 candidates who had applied. We went through a very comprehensive process, and I came out to be number 2 in that process. I was thrilled. Took a telephone call, said, look, you're number 2 in this process. If something doesn't work out, would you be interested in coming to Wolfeboro and having a conversation about the position? I said, absolutely. A few days transpired. I received a telephone call. The number 1 candidate backed out of the position, and it was my opportunity to do that. The interesting thing about that is when they narrowed down the field to 12. 12 of the candidates, including myself, had held master's degrees. And I look back to how I ended up making the conscious decision to secure a master's degree. And it was a result of the town meeting in Littleton in 2011. At that time, there was a motion on the floor at the deliberative session to significantly cut the budget. That budget was cut, and the town was actually promoting the default budget because the default budget was higher than what the proposed budget was based on the motions which were made on the floor. When I left that deliberative session, I said to myself, I need to make myself marketable. So I ended up returning to college with an associate's degree, and I went into a bachelor's program in public service management. Enjoyed it, had a wonderful time doing that, and my advisor strongly encouraged me to roll into a master's program. So I rolled into that master's program. I secured my master's in 2015, and as a result, that made me a marketable candidate for the Wolfeboro chief's position when it became available. So my wife and I moved here in 2016, and I never really thought anything about becoming a town manager. I spent my career in the fire service. I enjoyed it, and that's where I was heading. And things transpired, and the Board of Selectmen approached me and said, are you interested in taking on the role as acting town manager? Well, being a dutiful husband, I went and checked with my wife first to make sure she was okay with that, which she was. So I accepted the interim position. The interesting thing about that, at the time, my wife and I were actually talking that I wasn't challenged in the fire chief's role, and I was looking for something more. Well, be careful what you wish for, because that's what happened. So as that position developed, we made the conscious decision to apply for the position full-time of town manager, and I was fortunate enough to be the successful candidate. Since that time, there's been a lot of interesting things that have taken place. We've had some changeover in staff, and one of the items that we're running into right now is trying to fill some of those positions. And that is very challenging. We lost our longtime town engineer to retirement about 18 months ago. We've tried filling that position. We simply can't do it. So we're using a lot of contracted engineers, and that has actually worked out well for us. So that's a little bit of background of myself and how I got to the position where I'm at. So a little bit about town operations, and there's a lot of familiar faces here that I see that I deal with on a semi-regular basis. One of the things I would encourage you to do is if there's something that you need, you should be reaching out to that applicable department head and asking them to help you out with what your need may be, whether that's water, sewer, stormwater, code enforcement, inspections, whatever that is. And if you're not getting what you expect from the town, at that point I would encourage you to please reach out to me, because that's the medium that I have to be able to ensure that you as the citizens are receiving the services that you pay significant amounts of money for in your taxes. So with your taxes in mind, we are approaching the town vote, and Linda and I will speak a little bit to some of the warrant articles that we've been asked to speak to in a few minutes. But to give you an update on a little bit that goes on, the town budget is actually made up of 5 areas. And those 5 areas are the general fund, the water fund, the electric fund, the sewer fund, and the Pop Whalen Enterprise Fund. So why do we have all those different funds? The general fund, those are the drivers of the town that have a direct impact on your taxes. And that involves police, fire, town management, etc. Those services, highway. Then we have the water fund. Now, why do we have a separate account for the water fund? Because that's actually paid for by the users of the water system. We have to raise and appropriate that total number, but we also collect revenues, and those revenues, we are hopeful, exceed what those expenses are, so we have a balance at the end of the year that says, okay, we've made money in this account, and that money will be applied to capital projects and whatnot. We do have high water rates in the state, in the town of Wolfeboro compared to other communities in the state. And that's simply because of the small number of users that we have on our system. Our system is stressed. The infrastructure is old. It's aging, and it's brittle, and it does not take a lot of disturbance to have major breaks and leaks, which we have to repair. The next fund is the electric fund, and this is one of the funds that you probably enjoy most as a ratepayer in the town of Wolfeboro, because we do have some of the most attractive electric rates in the state of New Hampshire. That's kudos to our director of the electric department and our consultants who 2.5 years ago, we entered into a 5-year extension in our electric contract, which we just finished year 1 of, so we've got another 4 years of these attractive rates. And that contract was signed when all of the other electric companies were seeing the bubble burst. So we struck that perfectly based on the recommendations of our consultants. With our sewer fund again is a little bit like our electric or our water fund. We have a minimal amount of users, and those minimal amount of users do pay for the operations of our sewer plant and our sewer system, but there's no way that they can take on the infrastructure associated with it. So infrastructure costs such as replacing sewer lines, upgrades to the wastewater treatment plant, those actually do have an impact on your taxes. And that's actually fairly consistent in the state of New Hampshire. There are many communities that do that because of the small nature of wastewater and the fact that it does boil down to a water quality issue, and the amount of land needed to put leach field sewer systems on private properties in a downtown area, they just don't work out. So, and then the last one is our Pop Whalen Fund. We're still struggling with that. The arena, if you haven't been there since the construction's taken place, it's a first-class facility. It is available for rent. If you have a large function that you would like to utilize the facility for, I would encourage you to reach out to the director, and he can coordinate you coming to see the site and hold an event there. As well, there are smaller conference rooms as well, which are available for rent if you have that type of a need, so please consider that. To give you an update on a couple of projects that are taking place that you see in the community, The public safety building, that project is well underway. That's a 3-phase project. We're about a month away from finishing phase 1, which is the apparatus bay. Once that is complete, the fire apparatus will move into the new wing, and the existing apparatus bay will be torn down, and a new interconnection building will be built between the new apparatus bay and the existing administration building. One of the things that will take place going forward is, if you're familiar with the public safety building, there's actually 3 entrances to that. There's the one closest to the library, and then there's 2 others. When we're done with this project, there will actually be 2 access points to that building. The one closest to us will remain, and the one closest to the library will be expanded, and it will actually create a 4-way intersection with Crescent Lake Ave, I believe it is. So understand that that will be taking place as well. The street light, the flashing street light that is there as part of this project, that will be going away. Right now, we are still on budget. The budget is very tight. We do anticipate having to come back to the voters in 2025 to pay for some upfitting and soft costs for the building. One of the nice things about it is when we went out for the first part of the bond on that project, we were able to secure $8 million at a very attractive interest rate. And we were able to put that in a standalone account. To date, we've created about $120,000 of interest on that account. And putting that in a standalone account, that is a mechanism that we will go to the voters and say, can we utilize these funds to pay for some of these soft costs for the upfitting. So that's on task. That project is scheduled to be complete probably about this time next year. It'll be complete, and then there'll be some obvious site work that takes place with landscaping, et cetera. That landscaping hopefully will be integrated with some of the library's landscaping that will take place, as well as a potential upgrade or rectifying some drainage issues within the library parking lot. That will most likely be coming forward next year. If you remember, 2 years ago, we came forward with 2 projects to upgrade 2 of our sewer pump stations. The town has a total of, I believe, 12 sewer pump stations, but we have 2 large ones. These are the workhorses of the system. One's on Laner Street and one's on Mill Street. Those are large facilities. Those projects were in the final stages of awarding the contract, and hopefully those projects will be launching in the next several weeks. The budget on that as well is tight. We've been 3 years in design, but we're finally at the point of getting ready to break ground, which is good news. I believe you probably are aware of the South Main Street waterline project that will be taking place. I would encourage you to either attend or watch the April 3rd Board of Selectmen's meeting. At that meeting, we will have a full schedule from the contractor and the engineers. Right now, our tentative schedule is to begin the project early in April, shut down in the mid-June timeframe for the summer months, and then start the project back up in October. Project will go from Pickering Corner down to the Smith River Bridge. It'll replace all of the water line, all of the water connections, the hydrants, and there was initially a proposal to do Railroad Ave and Central Ave. However, we had to cut back on scope due to escalation. So we're keeping that project in the $2 million range. It's a local contractor. It'll be Dawson's, and they should be mobilizing in the next couple weeks. One of the things that you will see with that project is we will paint crosswalks, but we most likely will not be painting parking spaces because of the digging which will be taking place. With that April 3rd meeting in mind, this is going to be a very busy meeting. Again, I would encourage you to either attend or watch it virtually. New Hampshire DOT will be here at that meeting as well to speak to the other South Main project from Pickering Corner, which was originally to the Alton line, and now it's, due to scope reduction, it's been brought back to, I believe, Crossroad. They're going to be coming to speak on that project, and they'll be talking about the time frame, the contribution that the town is going to have to make, and discussion about the intersection out here between Center and Main Street. Whether or not that's going to be roundabout, light, keep it as is, that discussion is going to be taking place at that point. As well, the director of the Municipal Electric Department will be here. There's been an ask for an evaluation on burying electrical infrastructure through the downtown area. Obviously, there's a lot of components that take place with that. Not only do you have to bury the electrical lines, but you also have to bury all of the communications lines. And if you look out there, there are a lot of communication lines on those. As well, we would still have to put something in for lighting. So Barry Muccio will be here to speak to that with his consultant. One of the real challenges with that project, because it changes the way that buildings are provided power, any building along that corridor would be required to upgrade to current electrical standards, which could have a significant impact on buildings. It sounds like a fairly easy project to bring forward. It's really not. If you look out on the poles, you see transformers mounted on the poles. We would have to find places in the downtown area to place pad-mounted transformers. So there's a lot of moving pieces, but Barry is going to be here to speak to that. And it's, as well, extremely expensive. The system is not that old. It's probably about a third of the way through its useful life. So if this is something the town would want to tackle as that approaches replacement, now's the time to start planning for that financially. And I just would like to close with, again, the Pop Whalen. That facility is fantastic. If you have a need for some conference rooms or a large area to rent, reach out to the director. We're trying to get that fund so that it pays for itself. And if you know of people who are looking at functions, looking for function space, have them reach out. One of the things that we are trying to do, that we anticipate coming in front of the board in the next month, is to allow beer and wine to be either BYOB or a vendor to come in for events at that facility. That's something that the Board of Selectmen have to take up under an ordinance and make those changes. So I think that summarizes the bulk of what I was here to speak to. I'm sure you're probably sick of hearing my voice, but if you have any questions, I'll certainly try to answer them for you. Seeing none, I'll exit stage left for the moment. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jim. That was a bunch of very valuable information to know for the town. So we are going to take a 5-minute networking break. You talk amongst yourselves. We got some coffee and water over here, and then we will come back and get into the meat of the meeting about the warrant articles coming up on the March 12th vote. So we're going to move on to the explanation of the warrant articles. We have Jim is here. We also have Linda Murray from the Board of Selectmen and Kathy Barnard from the Zoning Board. So we are going to, they're going to help us to go through some of these warrant articles to go over the information. There are a total of 25 warrant articles. We're not going through all of the articles, but we're going through a number of them. The articles that, and not that they all are important to the town, but there's some of them that are kind of self-evident and don't really need a further explanation or, you know, us explaining the stance that we've taken. The Chamber of Commerce is supporting a number of the warrant articles coming out. They are number 2 for the zoning, number 6 for the town road upgrades, number 7 for the ambulance evaluation, number 8 for the South Main Street sewer engineering, and number 22 for the Pop William locker room lease. The Chamber of Commerce has chosen to support those based off of the business community. So that's something that we found were important for everybody. But there's going to be a couple of others that are going to be explained along the way as well. So we can move forward on that, and I will have Kathy Barnard come up first on Article number 2.
Good morning, everybody. I'm here to present the warrant article. There's just one that the Planning Board has proposed this year. It's in the Shorefront Residential District, and that will be the only district that's affected by this amendment. The Planning Board worked with representatives of the Wolfeboro Waters Committee, developing some of these proposed changes. The Wolfeboro Waters Committee was appointed by the Board of Selectmen due to concerns about the water quality of our lakes and ponds, and has been developed to bring these issues to the community. So many of the issues that we are facing are due to stormwater runoff. So you're going to hear about stormwater runoff from me and from the some of the warrant articles also. But this is a very important issue to our town because of the pollution going into all of the lakes and ponds. So these changes are attempting to bring more clarity to the ordinances. It does affect the coverage or the impervious surface. Impervious surface is when water doesn't go through to the ground. So that is basically what this is about, even though some of the items in the warrant article are kind of technical, but anyway. When the significant change to the ordinance is to the shorefront lot improvement standards, we need to emphasize that no development can occur on these properties that's above 30% coverage or impervious surface. So that's the first thing, because we are having problems with the stormwater going into the lakes. So if the property is already above 30%, no more increases are allowed. For properties with 15 to 20%, we're at least addressing one stormwater control must be added for projects between 15 and 20%. If a project is over 20%, then we're asking the property owners to provide a stormwater management system to infiltrate the water that's coming off their property. And that's another part of this ordinance, is to say that any stormwater on a property has to be captured on that property. So all of these things are being proposed in order to make the ordinance a little clearer and to make it so the property owner, when they're developing property in the shorefront, know what they're faced with and will deal with them ahead of time, hopefully, and address some of these issues. There are also, there's an amendment in there that talks about plantings, and plantings include trees and shrubs, ground cover. People seem to be taking down trees that they're calling dead or diseased, and that's creating a problem in the shorefront. So the ordinance says that in order for people to determine that a property or a tree or shrub is dead or diseased, they have to check with the tree warden before they can take it down. Any tree that's taken down then needs to be replaced in order to meet the number of trees required on these properties. Also, a couple other things in the shorefront. We're changing the definition of the boathouse, but that only is to be consistent with other sections of the ordinance. All of these changes you can see on our website if you want to look at it in greater detail, and also you can pick up the ordinance down in the planning office. The other thing that we're adding is the accessory apartments. This was a state statute that was passed in 2017, and the shorefront was left out of the ordinance. And so all we're doing is putting in something that's required by the state. These are simply attached ADUs, which are required in the rest of the town. So that's pretty much what we're doing with the shorefront. The only other item that the planning board considered was a petition warrant article that was submitted to do with multifamily dwellings. At the public hearing, no one was there to really explain what the ordinance said or would say, and so that was a little frustrating for us because we wanted to better understand what the petitioners were saying. So the planning board did not recommend that on the warrant article, but it's still there. But what we've said is that we really need to talk to these folks who have submitted the warrant article so that we understand a little bit more about what they were proposing and possibly work with them to deal with these issues. So that's it for now. And any questions or? Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Kathy. We appreciate that. Hopefully there may be the people who garner some questions. We'll have some for you later. We're going to bring up Linda Murray now from the Board of Selectmen to go over the other articles for us.
Good morning, everyone. Over here on the table, we have brought a printout of the deliberative sessions, slides for the warrant articles I'm going to talk about. So if you would like to go get a copy, it'll give you more information. We also brought, and Jim got this all put together for me, our sample ballots. So if you haven't picked that up, you may want to do that. I'm going to go through this in the order in which Mary gave it to me. And then the first one I'll do, and then I'm going to call Jim up to do the operating budget. He knows that inside and out and is the best person to give you the best explanation. So I'm going to start with the Port Wetland Drainage Upgrade, and that's Article 4. This warrant article is asking the voters to appropriate an additional $769,710 to be added to a $430,900 approved in 2022, making the total project $1.2 million, with $199,087 of grant funding, with the possibility of additional grants. The new drainage system design will upgrade the town's drainage system in Port Wetland to handle a 10-year storm instead of a 1-year storm, which was proposed in 2022. There are two conditions that must be met before construction can start. The first one is the Port Wetland Association has signed an agreement to pay the town $100,000 by December 31st, 2025. In other words, their portion. And the town has in hand all signed easements. The upgrade to the town's drainage system will capture the stormwater runoff from Winter Haven Road and surrounding roads, all of which are town roads. The Winter Harbor Watershed Management Plan identified the Port Wetland site as needing the implementation of the best management practices because of the stormwater nutrients impact on the lake. So these nutrients are just running right into the lake. The upgraded drainage system will capture storm water by installing 2 large catch basins with sump, one at the top of Winter Haven Road just before the very steep hill down to the lake, and one at the bottom of the hill, along with a drop inlet halfway down the hill. Along the edge of the steep hill will be a series of small drop inlets with sumps. All the catch basins and drop inlets are designed to remove sediment and other debris carrying phosphorus into the lake. The Wolfeboro Waters Committee supports addressing the stormwater runoff coming off town roads in Port Wetland to reduce the nutrient load amount going into Winter Harbor. This is a bonded warrant article. It'll take a 3/5 majority vote. There will be no tax impact the first year, that's in 2024, but in 2025, there'll be a 3 cents per thousand of assessed value tax impact. This is recommended by the Board of Selectmen by a vote of 5 in favor, recommended by the Budget Committee by a vote of 7 in favor and 1 opposed. Does anybody have any questions or concerns on that? If not, I'm going to turn now. The next thing on the warrant will be the operating budget. I'll have Jim do that, and then I'll come back to do the ambulance.
Thanks, Linda. Just to give you a little bit of background on one of the sheets that we gave you, that cover sheet, the top slide. Again, all of this stuff is available on the town website. You can go to the town website and you can get the video for the deliberative session. You can get all the presentations. You can get all the budget meetings. You can get all the Board of Selectmen's meetings where the budget was discussed and the articles. But the top slide, this lays out every warrant article, including the operating budget. I think it's important to understand that if everything passes at this time, based on our current assessed valuation at this time, the tax rate will become $7.28. Now, we do anticipate, if the budget passes, doing a reevaluation, so the tax rate will likely change in the fall because our assessed valuation will change. That's a state requirement that we have to do, and we're working through that. So this sheet gives you all of the warrant articles, including the operating budget, and what those expenses are. So you can have an idea of all in what that looks like. Compared to today's tax rate, that is an increase of $1.24. And I'll speak to some of that within the operating budget. So when you look at the operating budget, this process starts for the department heads in the July timeframe. They're scheduled to get their budgets into me first week in September. I take the month of September, review the budgets with the department heads, build the presentation, give it to the Board of Selectmen the month of October. The Board of Selectmen go through, make their cuts, make their increases, and then they come back with a recommendation to bring forward to the Budget Committee. The Budget Committee takes November and December, early into January, to go through the process. This year, from the department heads to me, I made $300,000 worth of cuts. The Board of Selectmen as well made $300,000 worth of cuts, and the Budget Committee made $70,000 worth of cuts. If you go to the next slide, there's a couple of pie charts on there regarding the operating budget. The general fund is $19 million, which makes up a little over 50% of our operating budget. Water fund, $1.7 million. Electric fund, $10.5 million. Sewer fund, $1.8. Pop Whalen, $406,000, for a total operating budget for the entire town of $34 million. This is an increase over the approved budget last year of $2.7 million. And the next chart down below, we've broken the costs out by employee wages. If you look at that pie chart and then you look over to the right, $6.7 million of our general fund monies is for wages. $4.2 million is for wage-related benefits, that's retirement, medical insurance, Social Security, et cetera. With that said, employees currently are required to pay 10% of their health insurance. We have created a task force within the town of a number of employees to look at options to try and reduce what our costs for health insurance are. And then it's broken down to get to that $19 million, so you see how that happens. You go over to the next page, and there's two charts here. The chart to the left is a chart that I built for the Board of Selectmen when we built the budget guidelines in July. And before we even hit start with the department heads, we were expecting a $2.5 million increase. And those increases are laid out here through the different budgets. You can see property reevaluation, that's in there. There's also a estimated increase in health insurance of $360,000, property liability, ambulance services. Traditionally, there's a fire truck warrant article, which is you're voting on. That is because we leased a truck over the next 5 years. That's within the operating budget. We had a significant increase in our tipping fees at solid waste. We did this year increase the cost of our dump stickers for the first time, and nobody's really sure how long. So we're hopeful to try and offset some of those costs. And we had 2 union agreements that we were already agreed to, so those were in place. As well, if you look at debt service, that's $560,000. That's the first payment on the public safety building. So the building is under construction. We took out a 20-year note. This is the year 1 payment for that. Now, I did say earlier there'll be a second tranche coming forward. We are very hopeful that with this second ask of $6 million at the bond bank, that we're able to back that down, because we believe that we may receive $1 million grant. So stand by for that coming forward. So that lays out a lot of the drivers within the operating budget. Any questions? No? Okay. The one other plug that I would give, just to tie in what I was speaking of earlier, and Linda will speak to it, but the ambulance evaluation, because it does have a significant impact on our operating budget. We did put a request for a proposal out for ambulance services. We received 2 quotes back to maintain the existing level of service, was either $900,000 or $1.4 million. And last year, we were paying $280,000 for ambulance services. We went back to the incumbent and said, look, can you work with us? And one of the reasons we want you to work with us is we as the town need to investigate whether or not we can operate this ambulance service through our fire department more efficiently and economically. I'll say that in my master's program, that was my capstone project for fire-based EMS for the town of Littleton. I left Littleton, I came here. 2 years later, Littleton took on ambulance services, and they are now operating the ambulance within the fire department under what I would call a similar model to what we would be looking at here. So I just wanted to get that plug in. With that said, thank you much. If you have questions, you know how to contact me, and I hope you all have a wonderful morning. Thanks.
Okay. I will move on to Article 24. And Article 24 has moved from being 24 on the ballot up to number 6 because of the actions at the deliberative session. So the Article 24 reads 911 Ambulance Municipal Operation Contract. The purpose of this warrant article is to appropriate $500,000 to cover the $750,000 cost of the contract ambulance service in case the 2024 operating budget is defeated. But if the operating budget is passed, the warrant article states that the $500,000 will, and this warrant article will be null and void. If the town's operating budget is defeated, the town will have to operate under a default budget, which only includes $276,000 allocated for ambulance service. The special plan to operate its own fire rescue ambulance service is financially sound, or whether it is better to continue to contract its ambulance service with an independent contractor. Many privately owned ambulance services in the state of New Hampshire are going out of business because the insurance payments for the ambulance transportation from an incident to the hospital have been reduced. One town in New Hampshire was giving only 2 weeks' notice before its ambulance service provider quit. In the spring of 2023, Stewart's Ambulance, the town's ambulance service provider, did not respond to the town's request for a multi-year ambulance contract. Stewart's Ambulance Service is willing to do a 1-year contract for $750,000, which is in the 2024 operating budget. The impact is 1 cent per thousand of assessed valuation, recommended by the Board of Selectmen, 4 in favor, 1 opposed, recommended by the Budget Committee by a vote of 6 in favor and 2 opposed. Does anybody have any questions or concerns about why we put this forward? Okay, the next one is Jockey Cove Engineering. Jockey Cove Engineering warrant article is asking the voters to approve $20,000 to fund an engineered drainage system design from Sewell Road down Forest Road on the Jockey Cove side to the Cary. Jockey Cove has experienced several cyanobacteria outbreaks over the last few years and has experienced high E. coli readings. In 2023, the voters approved an extension of the town's sewer system to address the E. coli issue. An engineered drainage system will include the best management practices to reduce the nutrient load, mainly phosphorus, going into Jockey Cove, which is the food that cyanobacteria uses. The Wolfeboro Waters Committee supports this warrant article and supports Wolfeboro's efforts to address stormwater runoff to reduce the amount of nutrients going into our lakes, ponds, streams, wetlands, and wetland buffers. The tax impact is 1 cent per thousand. This is recommended by the Board of Selectmen by a vote of 5 in favor, recommended by the Budget Committee, 8 in favor. Does anybody have any question about this warrant article? All right, I'll go on to warrant Article 8, the South Main Street from Center Street to the Smith River Bridge downtown. It's the same area that we are doing the water project. This warrant article is seeking $200,000 to engineer a replacement sewer line along South Main Street from Pickering Corner to the Smith River Bridge downtown. The town divided a large project into 3 separate projects to address the water line in 2024, which will start this spring, the sewer line in 2025, and the drainage system in 2026 along from Pickering Corner to South Main Street. And the reason that we divided it up into 3 separate projects was the impact on transportation and the short time that we have where we want to have that section of road opened up. So we looked at a large project and put it into smaller projects, thinking of the importance of our transportation. Does anybody have any question about that? Usually, we like to do everything at one time, dig up the road, put everything in, and then close it back up. But this one just makes sense because of what it will do to transportation. The next article is 22, the Pop Whalen Ice Arena and Art Center locker rooms. And before I discuss the Pop Whalen locker room use agreement, I want to disclose that I fill the selectman's seat on the Friends of the Pop Whalen Board of Directors. I have stepped down from voting on any warrant article, any selectman's authorization, or the use agreement related to the Pop Whalen Ice Arena and Art Center. This warrant article is asking the voters to extend the existing use agreement with the Friends of Kingswood Hockey, Brewster, and Back Bay Hockey from a 5-year use agreement to a 40-year use agreement, which aligns with the Internal Revenue Service Publication 946 definition of the lifetime of a building. In 2022, the Friends of Pop Whalen came before the Board of Selectmen asking permission to have naming rights throughout the arena, including the locker room space, to help pay their 2.7 portion of the expansion and construction costs. The Board of Selectmen authorized this naming right. Both the Friends of Kingswood Hockey and Brewster's use agreement give exclusive use of 2 locker rooms. The users pay for the room upfit. The Back Bay Hockey use agreement is for 1 locker room, allows Back Bay Hockey to install lockers and decorate the locker room at the Back Bay Hockey's cost. This use agreement is non-exclusive, so any team can use the Back Bay Hockey locker rooms. This means that the town has 4 new large locker rooms for any program to use when they use the arena. This warrant article has no tax impact. It's recommended by the Board of Selectmen 4 in favor, and since there is no money attached, the Budget Committee does not weigh in on it. My last one is the reaffirming the 2022 warrant Article 6 on surplus. This was a 2022 warrant article that stated that the surplus, the unassigned fund balance, will not become larger than 10% of the general fund appropriated in that year. The Board of Selectmen have kept to that over the years, but the added part was that further that the Board of Selectmen will in public affirm and say to the voters exactly how much it's going to apply to buy down the tax rate. So, in other words, the Board of Selectmen, if we follow this amendment, will have to use the unassigned fund balance to pay down the tax rate instead of applying it to any warrant article. As a member of the Board of Selectmen, it's fine. It doesn't really affect anything. It just means that the unassigned fund balance will be used when we go to set the tax rate. In my belief, it'll stop any issue that we got into this year. It makes sense. It's a good warrant article to support. So does anybody have any questions? Jim's here. I'm here. That's a lot of information. As he said, go to our website. I'll be around afterwards if there's something you would like to ask me.
Thank you very much, all three of you, for coming out today and doing these explanations. I think it was very, very helpful. This is being recorded by Wolfeboro Public TV. That should be out in the next few days. You can keep an eye on their website for the link to be able to look at the recording. So if anybody that you know wasn't able to come today, please let them know so that they, again, know before they go to vote on the 12th of March. So we appreciate everybody's time. If you didn't pick one up already, the sample ballots and the zoning amendment and the slide thing is over here on the table. One last basic call for any questions that anybody might have for anybody here, whether on the Chamber of Commerce or from any of our town officials. All right, well, thank you everybody for attending. We hope this was useful information. Again, if you have any other questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to either us at the Chamber so we can get to the officials, or reach out directly to the officials. I'm sure they'll be happy to help. So grab yourself some coffee or some water on the way out, and thank you again very much for attending.